Alright, hello everyone. My name is Disc, and in this video we're going to be looking at a Junkyard 16. We are at the very top of the new season, Shrouded, and I just did a Junkyard with this Paladin tank, who I thought was really good. And if you read that chat, he had a lot to say about discipline. He wasn't being mean, but I wanted to prove him wrong. I called him a pussy, and I said, let's go again. So this time, he's really trying me and really pushing me. And I think there was about 1 or 2 times where you could tell he bit off more than he could chew. Our DPS were horrible, but the tank and I did well. And I think there's still some good examples in here, and it was a fun run overall. So out with Encrypted, I really had fun with it and had a lot of good plays, to be honest. It's too bad none of them were recorded, but we're moving on. Mainly I've just been doing other things. Been spending my time making money, making a website, and my headset microphone was broken. So I didn't really want to put out bad audio. That's like my pet peeve when it comes to online videos, and I went and bought a new headset today. So testing a few things out. Also, I'm completely on my Windows now. I used to swap back and forth between my Macintosh for Final Cut Pro. I would edit on my Mac, and that would just take so long to transfer files back and forth and back and forth. So now I'm on Premiere Pro on my Windows, which is a lot better of a computer. And I think I can at least, well, I'm going to try and do one of these videos per week. I think I can definitely do that because I still do play even though I don't always record. And I'm excited to end this expansion strong. Don't really have any gear yet, but that's fine. This isn't too hard yet. But we're about to get going here. Have a weak aura to automatically choose haste. I think that's definitely the best choice. And definitely want your shock bots. Shock bot. Here we go. There's our bounty.
To prevent my father from eradicating all organic life, we need to gain entry into his subterranean fortress city.
I am focused on the shock bot. I fade, run right over there. That is all I care about. And I think the bots can proc from our dots. So I kind of look at Junkyard as just how well can I keep my dots rolling. That's the name of the game. Definitely want to dispel that magic that can get you stomped. And I open with a pain sup. Sometimes I go for that because it's kind of just a free 8 seconds to get your dots out. And PI is on our Warlock, and here's our first boon. Blast, Radiance Blast for the coverage. All you have to do is work a Radiance into Boon's cooldown window, and everyone will be covered through to the eruption. So things are getting spicy. There's no reason not to roll Shadow Fiend. This is our first pull. We need to get it going. So Shadow Fiend followed by Schism. And just really doing my best here to farm all my dots, keeping all my dots active. A better play would be to Radiance before I go into Rapture. But in a pinch, sometimes you have to just defensively Rapture. And I use Grid 2 to monitor my absorb values. The maximum absorb you can get from a Rapture is a crit. So being able to monitor absorb values at a glance with a bar graphic is just a really nice way to maximize that cooldown. So we have a 3-mob cleave. We're down a party member, so I do boon here. and I got full value, so I'm happy with it. And I was really having to try there. I meant to type that to my Paladin friend, but yeah, it made my arm hurt. So with these monstrosities, you kind of always want to hold your cooldowns until after his grip in. Consume. And yeah, I walled there, thankfully, because I got smacked by 2 mechanics. But yeah, wall was active. Throw PI on our Warlock, he queued. And I just, I'm refreshing my dots here. Schism. See, yeah, that was a schism on the front edge of the grip. Completely lost it. So defensively barrier for our tank. He gives me a sack just in time. And a hand of protection, so OP. Almost acts like a lay on hands. Schism, and I'm just trying to pump as much DPS now. Pull's almost over. Yeah, so I used to do this key all the time, and it has just been a while, so that was pretty messy on my part, but yeah, frontals, watch out. Always pro to lead with Fade to stay off an aggro table. But yeah, I think the tank here was trying to make me happy when I told him to pull bigger. He pulled a little too much, so we had our mechanics overlap there, and we did have a full wipe. But we're going to keep going. Levitate in for the style points. I fade before I cancel aura, and Shockbot's refreshed. So in a moment like this, I'm scanning what buffs I have available to kind of plan out how my next pull will look. And this is when I notice my Paladin is on the other side of that wall. But we got everything here. So I'm opening with some dots, waiting for the consume. Always good to feather to get out of that. It can be deadly. PI on our Warlock, and gotta get into Boon as quickly as I can here. Blast, Radiance Blast. There was a lot of group damage. And I threw in Paints Up on the backside of Boon. And this guy has a lot of health, a lot more than I'd like. So I Shadow Fiend as my DPS button and a Schism. It's rare that I use Shadow Fiend for the healing, so definitely want to just keep that rolling. It is totally fine to use it as a DPS button. Regain some mana. Getting all my dots out, and I'm going in for that grease spot. So at this point, I gotta play perfect. I got all the buffs. And I go into a Rapture here, just buying a little bit of time until Boon. Dodging ground damage, barely. And I am preparing for Boon. So the last thing I do is refresh the Atonement on the tank and Schism Boon, Nova Nova Blast. So if the last spell you cast is a single Atonement, it will last through the duration of Boon. So I really only needed to heal the tank there. So I refreshed his Atonement and had 10 full seconds of Boon. Just trying to keep my dots rolling from afar. And I'm beginning to scan what cooldowns I have available, which is nothing. And we do have PI available, but the Warlock is like AFK back there. So I opt to give it to the Hunter, who at least he's here. Bad PI, didn't get too much value out of it, but I did want to get it rolling. And I'm prepping for Boon here, so I lead with my dots first, then a couple of atonements, Schism Boon, and then that was a Blast Radiance Blast, just for the coverage. And this is a perfect Rapture. You want to open with Radiance for the atonements. Any target that's atoned cues your Mastery, which it'll just make your Rapture hit stronger. And we are getting ready for the next boss. Cooldowns are just about ready, and so is Ruby. So this is going to be a double cooldown window. Whenever you have both Fiend and Boon available, especially when you have Ruby available as well, you get more DPS by combining all three. And I pain supped our tank there. I don't really know why. Thankfully he doesn't need it on a non-tyrannical boss, so not much of a loss I guess, but that monstrosity was about dead. And here we go. So the rotation is Fiend, Schism, then Boon, Nova Nova Blast. So the only thing I could have done better is wait for Lust. The Hunter was a little bit delayed on the Lust, and I had already blew my load. But if I had waited, Boon would have had our preferred rotation, which is Nova Blast, Nova Blast. But I didn't wait. So this fight is all about just maintaining DPS while moving. Not too much to it. You don't really even need to stand in these safe circles until that attack happens, where all the green comes out. But the way our group is positioned here is perfect for Radiance. I don't like using Radiance or spells like Barrier unless they're going to hit all 5 of us. But I had a Penance proc there, was waiting for Schism to unload. Just pumping as much DPS as I can. And here we are all stacked again, so I dump a Radiance. Alright, the Gunker down. Moving on.
With that creature neutralized, I can deactivate the node.
So I think I'm liking my new headset so far. I had to fiddle with it quite a bit to get it working right. We'll see how it sounds in the end. Please let me know if it sounds better. It should. I got the Corsair Virtuoso.
Assistance protocol activated.
Alright, so scanning my available cooldowns. We have Boon. PI is almost ready. So this is a Boon pull, but to prep I am getting all my dots out, or as many as I can. And I paint up the tank as my opener too. You can be kind of vulnerable while you're casting Schism before Boon. Blast, Radiance, Blast. I just wanted coverage for the Eruption. Honestly, I don't think we needed it, but... And I should have punted there, but I'm bad. And there's our late PI because I'm bad. We did get full value on the PI, but it wasn't optimal by any means. But things just got a little bit hectic there. And I'm still learning the new affix. So this guy has a targeted mechanic and an AoE. Even on Fortified, it's not a big deal. We do have Shadow Fiend, so I precast Shadow Fiend, followed by Radiance, then Schism. So Schism has a really nice front end heal, so you want to use it to your advantage like that. Nor do you want to interrupt casting in a Schism window, so that's why you cast it after Shadow Fiend. And as soon as I saw myself get targeted there, my finger was already hovering on wall. I was kind of expecting that to happen, and thankfully I lived. But this is another boon pull. As my opener, I'm getting all my dots out, getting a couple of atonements out. Schism and boon. And here's the AoE damage, so I blast, Radiance, blast. And they have full coverage through to the eruption. Refresh my dots. With this guy, you definitely want to roll Dispels on the tank. And we accidentally pulled the boss. So I don't know if that was an accident or not. I know I asked the tank to pull bigger, but I don't think he meant to do that, and we go in for the reset here. And thankfully no one died. Keeping my dots out, I want to shock everybody. And we were a little bit unstable there, so I went into a Rapture just to buy time until we got that heal. It was a good thing too, I think it really helped us. So here we have a 2-target cleave. I refresh the atonement on the tank only, and then I Schism and boon for 10 seconds. And notice the tank is atoned through the eruption. Alright, and just so no one else trolls, throw a couple Mind Soothes out over there. Make sure you take your target off of the boss. And for this pull, the tank wasn't really taking much damage at the top, so I used that moment to get all my dots out before I Pain Supped him. And PI is available. We had 2 fall asleep, so I used Mass Dispel to help out. Went ahead and walled. Wall's my favorite button, to be honest. Mainly because there's no cast time. So things are getting out of control. A lot more time here. I go ahead and Shadow Fiend and Schism. And I was waiting for the lock to queue as Infernal, but I gave it to the Hunter a little bit late. The lock held for boss. Don't even get me started. Fortified trash. Greater than non-tyrannical boss. Especially if there's PI in the group, roll your spells. And we are almost ready for the next boss. There's really only directional attacks you have to worry about. Always keep your eye on the motorcycle. Paladin had a really nice off-heal there. And I think it was just Hand of the Protector. I don't think that was Lay on Hands. And now that these guys are stacked, I go ahead and boon. Nova Nova Blast. And I broke from boon for a Radiance. In hindsight, that was a DPS loss. I didn't need to heal. Yeah, always remember that Boone does have a natural heal to it. And in a 2-target fight like this, I do want to try and track my spectrometer to get that extra DPS. I use KUI nameplates to track that.
The Junkers are no longer a threat. I can
And
disable them.
here we go. Boss out of the way. Here's some fortified trash. Something to note, these guys don't really operate on an aggro table. Not all of them. But I fade for good measure.
Power node within that Trogdon.
Open with dots.
I doubt they will relinquish it willingly.
Getting a little bit spread out. I toss a barrier for the tank over there. And I really don't have any spells at the moment, so I'm just buying a little bit of time for them to come up. And I go into a rapture. It's always nice to rapture your friends first. With Charitable Soul, you get some that comes back to you anyway. So, Paladin's off heals really for the win. Things were getting out of control, but there's Paints Up. Just trying to buy a little bit more time until Boone. I refresh a dot, Schism, and Boone. Had a couple of atonements out. Going to Blast Radiance Blast to refresh all the atonements. Refreshing a handful of dots. Always watching out for that frontal. And this fight is really dragging. I've ate a lot of mana, but we still have more trash for before the boss. So yeah, there goes the Shadow Fiend, followed by a Schism. And this is where things get out of hand. So the only thing you really have to watch out for are the frontals, which are honestly hard to see. And everyone is dead. Okay, so it's just me and the tank, getting my dots out. I do have cooldowns, so we're kind of okay. Punt. That I basically look at that as just buying a couple seconds. Then here's Boone, Nova Blast. Refresh dots. Wall, going into Rapture. That's really all I have for another couple seconds here. Refreshing dots. Dots return as HPS. And here comes one ally. And I think to try and salvage this, I PI the tank. And we would have been okay, except I ate a frontal. I guess I take partial blame. I'll definitely be more careful in the future, but if our whole party didn't die, arguably that wouldn't have happened either. Yeah, bad camera angle. Kind of got fucked. But we're going to try again. Yeah, party's kind of mad about it. It was still a good run, it just wasn't clean. I think we have plenty of time to spare. And I am jonesing for a shockbot. There's one right up here in the cave, always. Looks like the rogue was letting me or something. But there we go. I'm good to go. That's all I need to be happy. Trash, then boss. Glancing at my available cooldowns, we have Boone. As my opener, I dot the whole group. Get a couple of atonements out. Schism and Boone. Nova Blast. Just try and land as many hits as possible. Especially now that we don't have getting your cooldown reduction is even more important. So whenever you can, don't break from Boone. And yeah, get as many hits as possible. But this trash is still fortified. The boss coming up is not a problem. So I drop paints up on the tank just for comfort. I'm not sure why we didn't pull this with the boss, but we didn't. Alright, and glancing at my cooldowns, I have both Boon and Fiend. So we're just going to get those rolling off the top with the first Schism. So I enter my cooldowns late, open with a dot and a full group of atonements, Shadow Fiend, Schism, Boon. And watching this over, I didn't drop my debuff, my ally did. So that last pylon, I should have ran over there, but thankfully our tank notices, I think. Yeah, and he goes and grabs it. But also, I think I completely missed my first PI. But looking at my Omni CD, our Warlock just came available, so I'm gonna keep a real close eye for him to Q. And I precast Barrier there. It's really a good opportunity to use it when all 5 of us benefit. And our Warlock just Qs his Infernal, so there is PI. And Boon just came available. Since we have a good bit of travel time next, I go ahead and Boon late. And I lost about 1 global. So, not the best, not the worst. And we're moving on.
Exemplary work. With the power nodes
Exemplary.
the machine will return to its hub to recharge.
Man, my room's kind of hot right now. I can't turn my fan on because it compromises the audio. Okay, here we are, coming up on the last boss, but we have a little bit more time to kill. Don't have any cooldowns available. Schism and Mindsear. That's the best we got. Mindsear. Mindsear. When it's a tyrannical week, you end up Mindsearing a lot more. It's a really handy DPS spell. But with this fortified trash and a bad group, you don't get the luxury of Mindsear too often. Alright, this is a pretty big group. I'm opening with my dots. Spreading a dot with penance. Schism and Mindsear. Yeah, as I was dodging the rapid fire, I got hit by the other one. Thankfully I can just dispel it. Paints up on our tank as all of my dots were falling off. It just helps buy a couple seconds to refresh dots. Really pads any pull. And we don't need Boon at the start of the boss, so that is a perfect place to dump it. Alright, here we go, last boss. Grip. So yeah, we're definitely going to hold both of our spells, Fiend and Boon, and we're just going to roll Schism and practice our rotation, getting as much DPS as possible. Really all you got to watch out for is that big zap that goes across the field. There is a dot that goes out, but Atonement pretty much is all you need. And you can punt those guys. I dot them too, just to pad the meters a little. And here is the Gauntlet intermission. And this is the only time where Grievous kind of bit us in the butt. I honestly forget we have it a lot of the times because it doesn't really play a factor anymore. But everyone's dying and getting zapped. And I needed to have been healing a little bit more. We had a couple heals from the off tank. A couple heals from the tank. But here we go. I'm clued in. And yeah, the only problem is that our group got separated. They were down there and I couldn't reach them. But yeah, we're okay now. But he got hit by the security, so it's partly his fault too. But there we go. And we are all dying, so I'm going to open with some atonements. Dot the boss. QPI. Fiend. Schism. Boom. And finally we have our preferred rotation. Nova Blast, Nova Blast. That is the best we're going to do in this season. And it's really fun to pump that way. But yeah, that was far from a perfect run, but I had really fun doing it, being that the tank and I had kind of teamed up and I told him to pull big. It was really pushing me, and it's I'm finding it's really fun to be back to standard cooldown timers. It seems a little bit more like what I'm used to. And yeah, I do hope I can put out at least one of these videos a week. To be honest, I didn't know anyone really cared too much about these, but there were a handful of comments of people asking, where did you go? We've missed your videos. How do you do season 4? So I thought, okay, well maybe I can go buy a new mic and keep to my hobby, because I do like this channel and I do like helping. I am very passionate about discipline, and I don't think it's as bad as really everyone thinks. I do think with the right add-on set and the right UI, you can really take away some of that difficulty that's usually thought to be, you know, the deal breaker for the spec. But yeah, I can't wait to get some more gear. Right now I really don't have much. But it's still pretty fun to play, and I'm glad I met this Paladin. We're going to do some more keys in the future, and I will get some more videos out, I promise. And until next time, guys, Disc out.